Welcome back to the Slay Your Day podcast. And today I wanted to talk about something that I've been seeing a lot in social media that I wanted to bring to you here on the Slay Your Day podcast. And this is the hustle culture versus soft girl era. Hold up. When I heard this, I first had to figure out what in the heck that even meant. Like, obviously we know what hustle culture is. But soft girl era? Hold on a minute. I had to do some research. I had to do some digging to find out, like, what is this? What does this mean? Like, what does all of this, how does this even all work together? So today I wanted to uncover what each of these mean and how we can use each one of these to support us in our lives, in our businesses, as mothers and support roles. Because for me, being in this hustle culture, number one, you guys know I'm not about the hustle culture at all. However, I feel like there is a time and a place for productivity and for structure and for systems and for being really focused. But there's also a time when you want to be soft or nurturing. So I want to break down what both of these are to see maybe where do you fall and what does this look like for you. So the first thing I want to define is what is hustle culture. So the definition and characteristics of hustle culture are an emphasis on constant productivity, long work hours, prioritizing career success. So absolutely, I am for productivity. Absolutely, I am for prioritizing my career because that's something that as a woman, just as a human being, this is something that I love to do. I love to have purpose in this world and something that allows me to feel fulfilled and to help others. However, I don't believe that working long hours and burnouts has to go hand in hand with productivity. So even in the definition or the characteristics of this about emphasizing long work hours and just kind of anything that goes around or into that bucket of hustle, not necessarily my cup of tea. Now, there's positives and negatives to each, just like anything. So I want to break down both of these as well under the hustle culture kind of outlook. So number one, positive aspects are motivation, achievement, personal growth, goal setting, financial success, all great things. So under those circumstances, I'm absolutely for being motivated, having financial success, personal growth, and achievement, 100%. Now, some negative aspects that can come with hustle culture are burnout, stress, neglecting your mental health and physical well-being, and potential impact on work-life balance. Now, you guys know, even when I talk about work-life balance, I always say it's work-life wellness or work-life juggle, because at the end of the day, there is no true balance. But under this description, they are saying one of the negatives is not being able to have a work-life balance. So that is under the hustle culture umbrella. Now I want to break down this soft girl era, because even your girl here had to be like, wait, hold up. Like, what is this? Like, what does this mean? So the definition and characteristics of soft girl era focus on self-care, aesthetic, embracing femininity, valuing emotions and vulnerability. So it says positive aspects of soft girl era: self-expression, mental health awareness, breaking stereotypes, fostering supportive communities. I'm all for this. I think that this is amazing. However, it says some of the negative aspects are potential for superficiality, overemphasis on appearance, criticism for being passive or non-ambitious. Now, hold up. This is where I want to break things down and kind of give you my own feedback on this, because you guys know my motto. We get to have it all. We get to have the business, we get to have the kids, the family, the bank account, all the things. However, me personally, I don't feel like it makes sense to subscribe 100% all in to one or the other. Like, there are reasons or seasons that showing up in these areas would make sense. Now, I know for me, when it comes to my business, showing up, and I'm going to use the terms that we're talking about on this podcast episode. So hustle mentality versus soft girl era, showing up in a hustle mode in my business, it wouldn't make sense for me to show up in a soft girl era in my business. Now, let me explain that. If we are going off of the terms that Soft Girl Era gave to me, the breakdown of what it means and what it is and the definition and the characteristics, embracing femininity and emotions and vulnerability and focusing on self-care, like there's not a lot of room for that in business when you're talking about getting things done and analytics and deadlines and stats and numbers. Like you're not running, hopefully, off of emotions when it comes to your business. However, when it comes to being a mom, being a wife, taking care of myself, yes, there's going to be more of this soft girl era in those departments of my life. But what I think has happened to our culture and society as a whole is that we've gone so far in the direction of hustle, hustle, hustle. You don't need a man. You can do it all on your own. That like we've kind of went super far back now in another direction, which is very like flowy and feminine and just like taking care of yourself and spa days and bubble baths, which I'm all about. Absolutely taking care of yourself, but not to one extreme or another. Again, I don't subscribe to hustle culture of burnout and stress and overwhelm. And I don't subscribe to this soft girl era of taking bubble baths all day long and like emotions overtaking everything. Like it doesn't make sense that if you are a woman that is running and doing all the things, your home, your business, your husband, your kids, all of that requires a different way to show up. So for instance, like my opinion of what's happened with the media and so far of like so many years, it being, I can do it on my own. I don't need a man. Like all of this kind of like man bashing stuff, that's not okay either. I mean, I for sure need my husband when it comes to raising my kids and having the family unit and all of these things that are super important to me because family is the most important thing to me. However, I also don't subscribe to, I just need to go do it all on my own or I need a man to do it. Like there's a middle line. There is a middle road to almost everything. And I think the reason why society kind of as a whole is going in this new direction of this soft girl era is because we've been so, I can do it on my own for so long now. I feel like maybe probably since the 60s, when we had this rise in feminism and rise in all of, women's voting and independence for the first time, we've kind of, the pendulum has had to swing so far in one direction to get to where we are now. And now it's kind of taken a swing back the other direction. But that's not to say that we don't need to embrace both of these. And again, going back, I'm going to go back in my notes here, going back to the definition of hustle culture, which is emphasis on constant productivity, long work hours, prioritizing career success. At one point in your life, and I know for me, even before I had kids, of course I was working longer hours. I didn't have little babies tugging on me and waiting for me to get home or leave the office and go play with them and have lunch or dinner or, have a hot meal on the table. And before I got married, I was, single and I only had to worry about myself. So of course, there's different times and reasons and seasons that these maybe definitions, cultures, eras would make sense for you in your life. But I think, again, if we look at society as a whole, you have to think about where these make sense for you. I know for me, this is why I talk about the systems, the structure, the automations, the bookends of your day. What does your day look like in the overall structure? Because I can't be in hustle, hustle, hustle mode all day long. I gotta step out of that and be in this soft girl era when my husband comes home. I actually took a course on how to step out of alpha and into feminine in different areas of my life because I feel like I'm very alpha hustle because I run my own business, because I'm running a team, because I have to be very strategic about my days and where my time is going. I mean, this is what I coach on. This is what I teach on. I'm really, really good at it. I mean, I am tooting my own horn here because I know I get results in these areas, but it's not because I sit back and let things come to me. It's because I am taking initiative and more aggressive in these areas, which is where that hustle culture stems from. So again, kind of like bringing this all together, I think that it's really important that we look at the role that media or society plays, and also generational influences. Because if you go back, even just one generation, like I know my mom for as long as I can remember had always said to me, don't rely on a man, make your own money, depend and rely on yourself. And that's great. Like, of course, we all want to be self-sufficient and have our own independence. But there's also so much to be said about building the family and making sure that you are, like, for me, it's really, really important that I feel fulfilled in all of these areas as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, in my own self-care and wellness. So it's this ebb and flow of where do I need to turn on the hustle? And then when do I need to turn that off and turn on this soft girl era? Like, when do I need to know that it's okay to let my husband maybe, and I'm going to probably offend a lot of people out there, but I'm going to let my husband take the lead, because guess what? When you're in that role also of you're always planning, you're always the one with the, productivity and the timelines and the schedules, it feels good to let someone else take the lead. And I know in my family, we have very traditional roles where my husband usually takes the lead when it comes to who is in charge, not in charge, I don't want to say in charge, but who is like taking care of the finances. He's the one that's like on top of the bills and making sure those things are taken care of. And I'm in charge of the kids, the home, making sure that we have family dinners or we're planning nice vacation or family time with the kids. It's just more of a traditional role. I know that not everybody out there has those exact roles in their families, but you have to do what's right for you. Like for me, I've built a business where I can take off time if I need, be the classroom mom, show up to soccer practices after school, do the pickups, do the drop off, do all of those things because I've created my business structure around that. So I think that it's really important to make sure that as you're doing this and as you're figuring out what is right for you in terms of the hustle culture or this soft girl era, that you take those things into consideration. You take into consideration what is going to work best for you or your family or your business, because it's not going to just magically work the way that you want it to work. There's a lot of foundation building that has to be put into place. So again, I would look at each one of these things and how does it support you? I know I actually made a list, go figure, right? Like the planner, organizer brain that I have, I like to make lists because I like to compartmentalize like what does this all look like? So for me, I actually wrote down all the different areas, and this is a great exercise for you to do. So you could write down home, you can write down, and again, whatever different hats or titles that you wear, mom, wife, home, business, and then write down which one of these areas is going to best suit you for the role that you need to show up in. Like for instance, when it comes to self-care or when it comes to the home, maybe that's more of your soft girl era. But when it comes to your business and leading your team and looking at your analytics and your numbers, that's more of that hustle mode mentality, because you have to be on top of the stats and the charts and the analytics. And that is what's allowing you to progress and move forward every single month. So again, it's an ebb, it's a flow, and it's also not always a constant. Like I know when it comes to my home, there's also times when I will be more in the masculine hustle than I am in the feminine flow of soft girl era, but I also look back and say, what is going to serve me best? Like, is it better for me to sit back and maybe let my husband do a little bit more of the planning versus me doing all the planning? Or does that help him? Because a lot of times, like I know for us in our family, I do a lot of the planning because I do it well and it's something I enjoy doing. Whereas my husband, he likes to, plan the vacations, but he also rather me kind of take charge and take the lead of planning the birthday parties or planning the travel or planning the date nights, because it's one less thing for him to have on his plate. So I think this topic of discussion is such a good one to have. It's something new that I've just recently heard popping up on my social media, soft girl era, soft girl era. I'm like, what is this new soft girl era? Because there is a lot what I talk and I teach and preach about in over here, Slay Your Day, about the systems, about the flow, about the productivity, the time management, which falls under the hustle category of these things. But also we need this other kind of soft, nurturing, motherly, taking care of the family or yourself or others, because one doesn't survive without the other. And that's why it's also really important to reflect on where do you need to show up, what's going to best serve you in each one of those categories. And that could change. And that's okay if that changes. Maybe for you in your home over the summertime, it's more easy, it's flowing, and you're more laid back. But during the school year, you got to be more regimented, schedules, timelines, bedtimes, all the things. You guys know, if you're a mom, you know what I'm talking about. So again, like, I think that at the end of the day, the way this will best serve everyone is not fully going in 100% on either, because there has to be a fine line of what is going to serve me best. You know, like, let me examine the pros and the cons of each, and how am I showing up in these areas, and how is it going to support me to get to the end goal of where I want to be. So this was such an exciting topic for me to dive into, because I think, again, between the way that we show up, the roles that we play as women in society and in our businesses and our families, there are a lot of hot topics to discuss. You know, there's a lot of things that have led us to this point. And I see also on social media a lot, you know, there's women that are the homemakers, and that is what they do. That is amazing to me, where, you know, they are there and 100%, maybe they're homeschooling or raising the kids and cooking the dinners and doing all those things. And I applaud them, and I applaud you for doing that. But I also applaud the women that say, you know what, I want to do my career. I want to have a career. I want to have my own business. But I also realize the role that being a mother and a wife also takes as well. So there's no right or wrong. Like, there's no, it has to be this way or it has to be that way. It's got to be all hustle. It's got to be, you know, soft girl nurture era, or vice versa. It's what is best for you. And again, I know for me, at the end of the day, I have very clearly had to look at, how do I want to show up, and what is the end result that I want to get in each of those departments. And again, a lot of the times in my personal, it's more of that soft, nurturing, taking care of others vibe versus the hustle, hustle, hustle. Although what I will say is, again, when it comes to like the school and the planning and the bedtimes and the bath times and just being on a consistent routine and regimen, then I kind of dip it back into my strategic planning hat that I wear, because things have to get done, you know? So I think that this is such a great topic of conversation. I would love to hear from you. Where are you at? Are you more in like your soft girl era, where you're the nurturing and taking care of other people, maybe yourself? Or are you more on the side of hustle? I'm trying to get things done. I got places to go and people to see and deadlines to be on. And you find yourself maybe in more heavily in one than the other. And again, I think a great exercise that you can do is list out all the areas that you're showing up: home, work, family, wife, or partner, or whatever. If you're, you know, a guy listening to this, husband role. And then what does that look like for you, and what is going to support you best? Because maybe in this season right now, you're listening to this in the summertime and you're like, oh yeah, I can be kind of more laid back, not so regimented. But I know come the fall, when school starts, I got to put back on that hat of like structure and deadlines and really focusing it in on the time management, so it shifts a little bit. So explore that a little bit. I would love to hear from you. You can tag me at Sandi Glandt. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on Spotify or iTunes or Stitcher, make sure to grab a screenshot, tag me, because every week I'm going to be doing free giveaways for listeners that are screenshotting this and sharing this, because we got to get the message of Slay Your Day out to others that could use these tools and resources. And this is only to make all of us together better and stronger. So I hope this episode today was something that resonated with you. I know when I heard this for the first time, it kind of sparked something in me. I knew I wanted to have a conversation about it, but in true Sandi fashion, I always like to have some kind of takeaway, something for you to implement. And my implementation for you is write out all the areas that you're showing up and figure out, do you want to subscribe more to this soft girl era in that department, or are you more kind of the hustle, have to get things done? And it would be very interesting to see what it looks like, because again, it might look like one thing today and something else in another month or season from now, depending on where you're at and what your goals look like. So I would just say, list it all out and then figure out what is going to support and serve you best. So as always, make sure you share this with a friend, like, subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. Now go out and slay your day.